to be going through the Year 4 Mathematics curriculum for the year 2024. So in this video will be all the different things that Year 4 students will be learning. So to start off, it's all separated into three different strands: number and algebra, measurement and geometry, and statistics and probability. And there are 28 different content descriptors across the three strands, meaning that there's 28 different things that will be taught that will fall within all these categories. So here are the number and algebra content descriptors. The first substrand will be number and place value. First things first, that they will be investigating and using the properties of odd and even numbers and seeing how they're different. Recognizing, representing, and ordering numbers to at least tens of thousands. So obviously that will be in the fifth column when you look at it in place value of ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and then 10,000s. Apply place value to partition, rearrange, regroup numbers. So what partition is really just sorting them out in the different place value columns that we would normally look at. So for example, if you had the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 12,345. That's one lot of 10,000s, 2,000s, 300s, 4 10s, and 5 1s. So they would be looking to do things like that. Continuing on in number and place value, you're also investigating number sequences with multiples of 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that also ties into a little bit the multiplication facts of 10 by 10. So knowing your times tables up to your tens, all the numbers from 1 to 10, is an expectation by the end of year 4. So you'll be learning that throughout the year, and obviously using, developing efficient mental written strategies for multiplication and division when there's no remainder, with and without using digital technologies, which really just means calculators. So the next substrand is fractions and decimals. The first content descriptor there will be investigating equivalent fractions and used in context. So just fractions that mean the same thing. So a half and 2/4 as an example, different numbers, but they're still the same size. Counting by quarters, halves, and thirds, including with mixed numerals. Mixed numerals just being when you've got the number of wholes. So for example, 1.5 is what will happen when you have added a half to a whole, and locating these and putting these on a number line. And then lastly, they're recognizing that place value system also goes to tenths and hundredths. So things can obviously get smaller than 1. And then this will be the start of making some of the connections between fractions and decimals. The next substrand is money and financial mathematics. So this will include solving problems involving purchases and calculation of change to the nearest 5 cents with and without calculators. So obviously a little bit of subtraction of money amounts and, to the nearest 5 cents, just like it would be in real life situations. The final substrand within number and algebra is patterns in algebra. And the first thing that they will be learning will be how to describe number patterns that include multiplication within them. There will also be word problems that use number sentences involving multiplication or division where there's no remainder. So it will really be a worded question. Let's say Michael buys 6 muffins and they cost $4 each. 6 times 4 is 24, as an example. That is something that you would need to figure out from the sentence that they give you. And then finding unknown quantities in number sentences involving addition and subtraction. So it's really just trying to find the missing values that are in number sentences, sort of like the start of algebra. Measurement and geometry is the second strand, and the first substrand will be using units of measurement. So using scaled instruments to measure and compare lengths, masses, capacities, and temperatures. So you could be using thermometers or rulers or little scales. Comparing objects using familiar metric units of area and volume. and converting between units of time. So obviously between seconds, minutes, hours. Students will also be introduced to the AM and PM notation, and they'll have simple time problems that they'll have to calculate. The second substrand is shape, and the things that students will be learning here will be comparing areas of regular and irregular shapes by estimating of sorts, not by using exact calculations, but having a pretty fair idea. That's what it means by informal means. And it also involves comparing and describing two-dimensional shapes that result from combining and splitting common shapes. So students will be doing this with actual tangible shapes that they can hold, but also it will be done using digital technologies also. The next substrand, location and transformation. Students will be using simple scales, legends, and directions to interpret information contained in maps. So just having a basic idea of figuring out like what is, north and south and west and east, and the basic directions where things are compared to each other within maps, and also about creating symmetrical patterns with and without technology, so without an iPad or computer for assistance, and also with it. Geometric reasoning, comparing angles and classifying them as equal to, greater than, or less than a right angle. So this is, I guess, the start of really interpreting what these angles are, whether they're acute when they're less than a right 90 degrees, being a right angle, or being larger than, but still less than a straight angle, and then they can be judged as or classified as an obtuse angle. Statistics and probabilities, a final strand, and the first substrand, chance, describing possible everyday events and ordering their chances of occurring. So really just introducing students to the terminology that we would use for how likely something is to happen. And really that helps to categorize when something is more likely to happen than something else. And then identifying everyday events where one thing cannot happen if the other does happen. So they'll be looking at certain examples of, you can't have a day where it snows and then on that same day it didn't snow. If one happens, it stops the other event from happening. And lastly, identifying events where the chance of one thing will not be affected by the occurrence of another. So yeah, there'll be obviously a number of different things that they could look at there. And lastly, the final substrand, data representation and interpretation. The students will be trialing out methods for data collection, including survey questions and recording the answers that they've got, and then they'll be constructing suitable data displays with and without technology. So it'll be things like column graphs or picture graphs, where one picture can represent various data values. Finally, here, they also evaluate the effectiveness of the different displays. So students will get a little bit of an idea of why some displays are better than others for showing, different sorts of results. And that is all 28 content descriptors for Year 4 Mathematics. If you need any more information, please have a look at the ACARA website, the SCARSA website, which I'll be leaving the links for those in the video description below, and also have a look at other videos that I've got on this channel for further information about this. But if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for your time.